Greetings everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, Season 2.
Frieren, Season 2, Episode 2. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back from our Anime Night in the dojo, and well, last time Stark had to run away.
Nikarundayo.
He had to do it. Channeling his inner Joestar. But, I'd say a pretty solid start to the season. You know, just everything that this show has been very good at. We talked about that last time a little bit longer than probably should have, but it was all stuff related to Frieren, and when I was sitting there editing it, I was like, we went on for 15 minutes. My bad. But it was all relevant and we had to talk about it, so that's what we are, a talk show, so I don't know what you guys want. But either way, definitely not doing that this week because we've already covered it all, so we don't have to rehash it. Cool.
That's debatable.
I know. We gotta be like every good talk show, and that, you know, they come in the morning and they talk about the same stupid bullshit that they talked about last time and the time before and the time before that, and there's like one new thing that they discuss, and then they add that to the repertoire, and then, you know what I mean, and eventually they have like a 3-hour show and it's just the same thing over and over and over again. But
you saw freaking Rooster Teeth. Just 90% of your stuff just needs to be self-reference.
Yeah, pretty much. Just, you know, make self-references all the time. Just nobody has any idea what you're talking about. You're your own inside joke. We were watching a Jacksepticeye Let's Play last night. He was making all kinds of references, and I was like, I knew like 3 of them. But you know, you gotta make references that hits a wide audience. You never know who will know what you're talking about. Why do Futurama all the time? Because it's great. But either way, as for Frieren, just journey continues. You know, that's about it. They're on the path to that place that they're going. I forget what it was called. Because once again, it's been quite a while since we watched season 1.
I'm pretty sure we did get the name of the land that the Demon King's castle is in, but yeah, I don't remember it.
Yep. So, either way, I'm up for whatever, you know. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward with this little like arc that's before like the super awesome crazy arc that everybody is looking forward to. Either way, once again, that was stuff we talked about last time, so we don't really need to. So we're going to push some buttons and get going here. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the timer reaction, and people on YouTube Beyond, we'll see you on the other side for the discussion and review. If you're looking for either and or the opposite of what you're currently watching, it's on YouTube or Patreon. Any other place that may have stuff uploaded to it. Like the hit podcast Distractable. Did you guys know it's on Spotify? It's crazy. So if you're a fan of Markiplier, it's there. I can't believe he hasn't been promoting that, but he's been promoting Iron Lung because his movie came out. So if you're over here putting out a movie, you can't be promoting your hit podcast Distractable.
He's promoted it like once or twice recently, but yeah, no, he's definitely been all in on the Iron Lung train.
Yep. Which, side note,
after all, it is the #1 movie in America.
Absolutely. So I can't wait to watch that. We'll probably talk about it in its own thing because we're very big fans of Markiplier here. So hopefully that movie came out the way he wanted it to. And seeing as much of Mark as I have over the last 5 years, once we see it, we'll know if it's pretty much what he wanted to get out of it. Everything that we've heard, it's, you know, a lot of people going in didn't understand what he was trying to do, and I think what's most important is that that team got done what they wanted to get done, and, you know, have already made like 10 to 15, 20 times the profit off of how much they put into it. I mean, obviously profit's not everything, but it's nice to be able to reward people for their hard work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, especially since it was basically entirely funded by Mark himself.
Yeah.
It's like a totally indie project.
Yeah. So, either way, all that random stuff aside, we're going to push some buttons and get going here. So, there goes something. Well, alrighty, then there you guys have it. Episode 2 is in books, and we got stuff on the Hero of the South, arguably humanity's greatest hero, based on just everything that was discussed in this episode, the storytelling, all that stuff, the mythos behind him. It was very well done. Yeah.
And from Frieren's
what else can I say?
He was from Frieren's recounting, he was stronger than even Himmel.
Right. And he was basically the guy who paved the way for Himmel to succeed, as for him being a seer and being able to see into the future. And he basically canceled out his Seven Sage counterpart by them taking each other out, which the Seven Sage guy, the demon, could see 1,000 years into the future. We didn't really get any kind of like frame of how far the hero of the South could see into the future, but he could at least see as far as his death, which, I mean, bare minimum. But he did know about Himmel coming to Frieren after the fact, so he could see reasonably. But it's
well, no, Himmel came to visit her before his death, but yeah, he could see up to his death at very least, and had at least some vague understanding of beyond that, because once again, he could also predict the whole thing of like Himmel changing Frieren for the better, which, once again, like you pointed out, doesn't actually happen until his death, like 30 years later.
Yeah, so it's I guess we'll just start with that. The whole like any kind of like characters that are like the Fates, or like the Norns in like most recent, like, the God of War series, in Norse mythology, any kind of being that can like see the future or that kind of thing is always it's always an interesting right for fantasy, because then it becomes that like discussion of why are you not fighting against it or doing something to like fight against fate or whatever. And I think in God of War Ragnarok, with everything that Kratos talked about in that entire game, and even in the previous game, in the 2018 version, is you do it because it's necessary, not because it's foretold. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most important part with like when you're doing anything. You know what I mean? Like when Atreus has to like send Skull and Hati back into the sky after the moon is stolen, that kind of thing. It's just like, well, this is going to kick off Ragnarok. Maybe I shouldn't do it. But it's just like, but you have to do it because it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean? In the case of something like that, and I think that was a very interesting way to handle that kind of thing. Is like, when it comes to fate and stuff like that, and when they met with the Norns in that game, and when they tell Kratos, it's like, you guys make such stereotypical, obvious decisions that you just make us seem like we're omniscient, but we're not. The Norns in that game, they really didn't see the future. They kind of read people and were like, that's kind of like the easiest way is like, oh, you're a smoker, you're probably going to die of lung cancer. That's the kind of predictions that the Norns made, just to that like extra level of degree of like, yeah, we've seen your life. This is more than likely what's going to happen because of your stereotypical, easy to make decisions. You're not interesting. You don't make decisions that are like, they make the easy choice like every time. They make the obvious choice every time. They don't.
That was
like,
that was the big difference between the Norns and the Fates in the God of War series. The Fates could see and influence fate itself. The Norns were just really good at predicting things.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of why the Norns were accurate to Kratos, whereas the Fates weren't. Kratos is a being that defies fate.
Yep.
So when the Fates try to write his fate, he just defies it and goes against them and ends up killing them.
Yep.
But when the Norns make a prediction, it's still just a prediction. They're not writing his fate, which he then breaks because he's a fate breaker. It's Kratos. You know what Kratos is going to do.
Yeah. So they're just playing their own 5D chess over there. But when it comes to anything like that, I think I do like that that game's take on it of fate and determinism and all that kind of thing, is the whole thing of like, if it's foretold that, like we could just keep using the God of War stuff. Like in the case of Freya, she was told by the Norns that her son is going to die a senseless death, and he does in the case of Baldur. But by her trying to prevent it, she's the reason why it happens. If she had never put that spell on Baldur, he would have never turned into the person that he did, and that led him down the path to end up being killed by Kratos. You know what I mean? So a lot of those things just come down to people who try to break or defy fate end up fulfilling the prophecy because of certain things that they think are going to prevent it. And it's definitely a very interesting take when it comes to whatever. So it's in the case of like everything that we talk about here is I think it's just one of those things where don't worry about fate, just do what you got to do, basically. Whether it's destined or not, it doesn't matter if you still feel it's the right thing to do or what have you. That's just what you have to do, and you can't second guess yourself in every way, shape, or form. But sometimes you got to have that thing in the back of the head, like with what Freya was doing is like, well, what if, me putting this spell, like super major decisions, you kind of really got to look at and go, is this the right thing to do? And it's always a very interesting discussion to have when it comes to anything that revolves around fate or people who see the future or that kind of thing. We have that in MHA with Night Eye, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And in the case of like Deku's resolve rewriting the future and that kind of thing. So it's always interesting to see how different authors deal with the whole like seers or people who see the future or the fates or what have you. And in the case of this, it's one of those things where we didn't get the whole story behind how, like, say the sage guy, like the sage demon, felt about the whole situation, whether he was taking steps to avoid it or what have you. But sometimes it's kind of like how I've mentioned with like the sporting analogies, where you can know every play the opposing team is running in a football game, you still have to stop them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we didn't get very much information on how the Hero of the South's power worked, and we got even less on how the Sage Demons worked. But I imagine it probably is somewhat of a case of like the Hero of the South more or less pulling a Doctor Strange, and like he knows a bunch of different possible outcomes, and this is just basically like the best one.
Right.
Is that he goes 1-for-1 with the Sage Demon, because the Sage Demon ends up becoming too big of a threat if he doesn't.
Right. And that was kind of the thing with like Doctor Strange, where like in that one Avengers movie where freaking Tony Stark's like, so how many times do you see us winning this? And he's like, 1. You know what I mean? And that was his whole gimmick, was just like, so we got a 1 in 15 million? Yeah, I like those odds. It's like, are you kidding me? So
yeah, I imagine it's going to be kind of similar with the way he talks about it, like the whole thing of like, even if you were to join me right now, the way he went to wording it is more or less along the lines of like, even if you join me now, I wouldn't change my mind, kind of thing. Kind of in the way he phrases it, just kind of implies that he does have some sort of choice in the matter, and that he's choosing to just go with what happens, which is that he fights the 7 sages on his own.
Right. Takes out 3 of them, which clears the path for Himmel to not have to deal with potentially the most difficult threats, potentially. So.
Yeah, because like Frieren mentions, like Himmel's party, along with her and stuff like that, they have a hard time just fighting the 2 of them that they did. Meanwhile, the Hero of the South 1v7s them and kills 3.
Yeah. Which is obviously a huge deal. So that explains why he is seen as the strongest hero for humanity, because that's insane. You know what I mean? What Himmel's party did obviously was very impressive, but that was a party of 4. They typical, tank, healer, DPS, that kind of thing. In the case of that, and more of a fair fight, what the Hero of the South had to deal with was 1v7, had no backup at all. And the sages were at full power, all 7 of them. So that is a pretty stark difference in just like any kind of like power scaling sense. So it's just one of those things that is a very interesting just way of going about anything like this. So
yeah, once again, we don't really know anything about the omniscient sage demon guy's abilities, apart from just the fact that he can apparently see 1,000 years in the future. But I imagine that he would be like the opposite end of the spectrum of like where the hero of the South probably saw a bunch of different outcomes and chose this one because it would be the most beneficial. I imagine the demon probably was closer to the Norse prediction of he foresees that the hero of the South will kill him, so he tries to pull the 1v7 to avoid it and ends up getting himself killed by the hero anyway.
Right.
Like he brings about his own prediction.
Yeah. So either way, I think that was very well done. We started the episode with the whole them getting the spell for scratching your back. I'm glad they're continuing that. Since we're talking about spells, we ended on the spell that I talked about jokingly. It was either last week or in the Anime Year in Review, where we were talking about Frieren a little bit, and I was just mentioning like, oh yeah, they get weird spells, like turning an apple from red to green or green to red or whatever. That's literally the spell that they got at the end of this episode. Unbelievable. You know what I mean? As I mentioned at the end of your action, that was just me being kind of an a-hole. Just, it's like, yeah, it's stuff like that, weird stuff. And then they go and do it. Absolutely insane to me. Just like the two YouTube videos me and Age watched last night with Jacksepticeye and the Regulation guys, former Achievement Hunter guys. Both of them mentioned Diddy Kong in their videos from the last couple of days. Or Diddy Kong Racing in the last couple of days. It's like... And they're not associated with each other at all, so can't say that is the reason. So Diddy Kong Racing, there's a poll from 25 years ago. So I just, you know what I mean? It's just weird stuff like that keeps lining up. That just weirds me out. And I just, I mean, a couple weeks ago it was the trifecta of people getting kicked in the nuts, and then we had to bring up the guy with the orange afro. You know what I mean? It was so weird. It was so weird. It just keeps happening, and I don't know what to do with it. But either way, again, this was another solid episode across the board. As this episode went on and led into their like little side quest thing that they went into, obviously something was up, because as Stark points out, it's like, yeah, usually Frieren wants to stay in a town for like 5 months. What's going on here? She wants to leave like within a day. What's going on here? Obviously something's going on.
Yeah, Frieren saying that time is a limited resource.
Right. Like, oh, this coming from the woman who, let like 50 years go by and friend zoned Himmel for 50 years, and then now you want to leave in a day? What's happening? What's here? And it just came down to the family that this was the great grandson of the hero of the South. So they have the
no, it's not not the hero of the South. This was the noble family that had the sword, that told them that if they didn't retrieve the sword with Himmel's party, that he would throw them in the dungeon, which I countered with, if they never come back, and to report that they couldn't find the sword, how are you going to throw them in the dungeon? Are you going to send out like a party to go find them and bring them back so you can throw them in the dungeon? So yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But either way, just like random side quest nonsense for this kind of thing, a little bit of extra world building, that kind of thing. Stark will eventually catch something bigger than a minnow. I mean, I've been there. Anybody who ever did the fishing grind in Near Replicant, this is where you started. And it was miserable. I never want to do it again. Never have to do it again. I platinumed that game. I don't have to do squat. Yeah, the joke I was going to make is the freaking Stark is just forever stuck at level 1 fishing.
Yeah, his skill never goes up. He's never going to get anything. But either way, we went back into the demon stuff, that kind of thing. This whole sequence was very interesting for what it was. Obviously, Frieren has a sixth sense for those kind of things, even if she was making a fairly obvious, people close their eyes to pray, generally, obviously. And that's when the demon strikes. And let's be real. Anybody, hanging around a destroyed town that was fairly recent, you're going to be fairly suspicious of them. No matter what they say. You know what I mean? So,
well, like Frieren was kind of saying with Fern there, like she was maintaining amicability towards the demon, even though she knew it was the demon, until the demon went to make a move, and then she shot first, which was the whole thing was with the praying of like, okay, you're trying to bait us into lowering our guard, so I'm not going to allow that.
Right. So either way, this was a very interesting sequence across the board. Stark protecting Fern, that kind of thing, the party dynamic, all that stuff. But the major thing with this entire sequence is well, let's see if I can find it. But it was the frame where Frieren looks up, and that was a fan art thing that we talked about at the end of the reaction. There was, it's this thing that kind of went viral because this random fan artist had a problem with drawing characters looking up or something to that effect, and it just became a thing, and it just like went viral, and it was all over the place, and people were like doing their own takes on like not just Frieren looking up, but like other characters looking up in that like very caricature form that happens. And here in this sequence, there are a couple frames where Frieren looks up that the studio, like, people saw it and they slipped in like their take on the Frieren looking up thing. You know what I mean? It's pretty obvious that's what they did. And it's one of those things where people were like, oh, and there are a lot of people, like when this episode came out, where they I didn't know it was in this episode. I knew it happened at some point. I didn't know it was in this episode. Yeah. There it is. It's right there. I landed right on it. Holy crap. So she looks up in these couple frames right here, and that's it right there. That's the meme right there. And people were going off on like, they would have to redo the whole episode. It's like, what are you guys talking about? Have you never seen a piece of editing software? All they had to do was create these extra couple frames, even if she looked up in a different way and they redid it to kind of like pay tribute to the meme, because this is obviously what's happening. You know what I mean? And this was like a couple frames. So we're at 16 minutes and 37 seconds. So if I go to like 16:34, you'll see that this is literally 0.3 of a second. Like 10 frames tops in the thousands upon thousands of frames that are put into every episode of most anime. That right there, like, a lot of people are like, oh, that would have taken them such a long time to do that. Absolutely not. At most, this would have taken like a day to get all of it done. You know what I mean? To redraw the character, to draw her in this case, set it to where it needed to be for the lighting and all the stuff that was going on, to slip it in. You absolutely don't have to redo the episode. You just have to edit it into the sequence. That's it. You know what I mean? You make the sequence, you edit it into the frame order, and that's it. You know what I mean? Even if they had the episode completed, all they have to do is go to this point in the episode, in this case, 16 minutes in, and draw it out, and then add and slip the frames in there and re-edit it in, and then boom, you're done. And then re-export the file. That's it. You know what I mean? It's not like it was some grandiose undertaking to make these couple frames of homage to the meme. You know what I mean? There are so many people like, oh, I can't believe they spent the time to do that. It's like, what, a couple hours? You know what I mean? They're not remaking the whole episode just to do this. Obviously, they would never do that, but it's pretty crazy the amount of misinformation that was spread about this. It's like, yeah, you can absolutely add a couple things to a sequence without redoing an entire episode. You think if there's a mistake in animation that they go back and start over from the beginning? No, they just edit it out or remove it or whatever. That's how software works, you guys. It's not like they're painting on a canvas and go, oh crap, I painted Ichigo's hair blonde instead of orange. Now I've got, in every one of these frames here, I got to completely redraw the canvas of everything else that was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not like a retroactive thing of like, oh no, I painted freaking Ichigo's hair blonde in this one frame, so therefore every frame now has Ichigo blonde in it from here on.
Yeah.
It's literally just whatever you want to change. You only have to change those specific frames of it. So, like, in this case, we were just adding 3 frames to the episode.
Pretty much. And that would not take that long, I assure you. This was probably done in under a day. No big deal. They probably saw it and were like, let's slip that into the episode. You know what I mean?
Which I was double checking to make sure that this is the exact scene, and yeah, this is the reference to it.
Yeah.
Just making sure, because it doesn't actually look that close to like the original. But once again, the whole point of the meme is just basically to
do your take on it.
Do your take on it. So yeah.
So either way, that was like one of the bigger things to talk about in this episode, aside from the serious fate and determinism stuff that we talked about. But it's like, you know, absolutely this could be done and slipped in. You know, it's one thing. It's not like they had to they didn't add a fight sequence or something. You know what I mean? Like if, say, Kubo wanted Ichigo to fight Uryu or something, like, you know, something, or like Naruto to fight Sasuke again. It's like, we need to add another fight. It's like, yeah, that would take a while. If we need another 3-minute sequence that's a fight sequence, absolutely, that would take a while. But in this case, it was a couple frames, you guys. Come on. Stop spreading information on how long it takes to get some of this kind of stuff done. Really not that big of a deal. So.
Yeah, as far as the rest of this scene goes, although I did call attention to it in the episode itself, but once again, Fern commenting that the sword demon was fast is saying something, because once again, Fern is a min-max speed build.
Yep.
So if even she's having a hard time keeping up with them, the sword demon was actually a lot more serious business than I think a lot of people will probably give her credit for, since she gets taken out so quickly.
Right. But once again, to be fair here, this is 3-on-1. And it was excellent teamwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's 3-on-1 against probably one of the strongest adventuring parties currently out there.
Yep. So, either way, it doesn't really matter if it was Frieren or Frieren that landed the killing blow. But Stark did his job, and Zoltrark did his thing. It's like the bread and butter spell of just... It's like magic missile, basically. It takes care of everything, pretty much. So it was a very interesting spell, and that was something that we never really talked about last time. But Zoltrark is a very interesting spell, and we've seen how even Fern utilizes it differently than Frieren does. That kind of thing. It's a very versatile spell. Simple and versatile. Sometimes that's all you need. You know?
Yeah, like, once again, Fern's whole shtick is she's a speed build. She just is very good at casting Zoltrark a lot of times, very quickly and very precisely, and just systematically, like, destroying an enemy's defense by just hitting it with way too many goddamn casts to keep up with.
Yep. So, either way, definitely one hell of a sequence. It's always a sword. You know what I mean? It's always a sword. That's the problem. And, well, like I said, they were rewarded with the greatest grimoire of all time. The Apple one. Like I said, I was just being a dick a little bit. That's it. I wasn't being serious. I wasn't trying to make prediction. I'm not trying to say, oh man, look at that, you guys, I called it. This random, nonsensical happenstance. Unbelievable to me. Absolutely insane. But it is hilarious, and since I'm a guy who loves comedy, I gotta appreciate the irony.
Yeah.
The absolute irony. Ugh. But either way, it was another solid episode across the board. It had something for everybody, I think. It had the deep cut lore, that kind of thing, a little bit more on the deep not the Demon King, but like the other demons of this world, like the higher ranking ones, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we knew of the demon sages, but this was the first like we've really kind of got of them as a whole. Like the only bits we got were occasionally mentioning, like, we knew Aura was one of the demon sages.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Frieren beat her earlier on in the series.
Yeah.
And then like the guy who created Zoltrark was also another one of the demon sages. But once again, the whole thing of Frieren mentions here that like they were, even Himmel's party was having a hard time dealing with the Demon Sages. All they could do was seal the Zoltark guy at the time.
Right. So, either way, it'll be once again interesting to see how far they get in this shorter arc of the series, that kind of thing. I obviously don't really know what happens. I just know that the arc after this is the like super major arc of the series up until this point that people are excited for. That's all I know. That's it. That's my meta knowledge. I know nothing else. So
yeah, as it stands right now, we still have 2 more Demon Sages in the wild as well.
Right.
Because, like, we know the 7 confronted the Hero of the South. 3 of them died, including the Omniscient guy. And then when Himmel and them went to encounter the remaining 4, Aura and one other one fled. And they never got a chance to encounter them, which Aura's dead now, so but we don't know where the other one who fled was. And then the 2 that they fought and struggled with, one was the Zoltark guy that they sealed, and the other guy we don't know about.
Yep. So definitely a lot of stuff on the plate. Should be interesting, and just needs to keep doing what it's doing. That's it. There's a grandma line in the little preview thing they did, so that's probably going to be funny. So, more comedy. Maybe Stark will get his fishing skill up at some point. That's about it. So, anything else, Edge? Well, alrighty then. Ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube beyond, however you're watching, as always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging out here in the dojo for more Anime Night. And this was Frieren, Season 2, Episode 2. So, have a good morning, evening, afternoon. Whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.